Welcome to Grown As Men, a perspective podcast on everything from the last generation of unashamed men. I grew up in a world where respect was earned, responsibility mattered, and the phrase fiscal conservatism wasn't labeled fascism, nor were the people who supported it branded as Nazis. This video kicks off a three-part series featuring Senator Rand Paul on the Senate floor advocating for fiscal responsibility, all within 24 hours of the U.S. government shutting down. So let's kick it. I'm sure you've all heard about the government shutdown. I'm not going to beat a dead horse other than the fact that this has happened probably 6 times in my lifetime. In 2013, I was actually in the Navy when it happened, and it was so bad that I don't remember any of it. They want to paint it like this is the end of the world. It's not. Okay? This has happened. It's not the first time. Happened under Obama. Happened before under Trump. That one I remember even less. It's a political tool that, you know, when it happens, people use it to demonize the other party. It's happening on both sides right now. It's, oh, well, they're stalling. Oh, well, they don't want to pass health care. It's all a bunch of crap. Okay, so what I want to do is actually look at a video from, oh, shoot. What did I do with that video? Here it is. Okay, what I want to do is get into a video from the actual Senate floor with Rand Paul. Now, if you don't know Rand Paul, he's a senator from Kentucky. He's been in office for a bit. He is probably the most American senator that maybe we've ever seen. The guy is a constitutional conservative. He supports fully the tenets of the Constitution. You know, the First and Second Amendment. He's very pro to and he's a fiscal conservative. And he has called out both sides throughout his political career. You know, which I admire because most don't. You know, but he's called out both sides on how when they get the football in their hands, all of a sudden, you know, spending concerns go out the window every time. It's been no different under, you know, Bush 1, Bush 2, Obama, Trump both times, and Biden. What needs to happen, though, is we need to really start, like, we're in the trillions. I can't believe that our deficit is in the trillions. That's insane to me. No more than 10 years ago, it was in the billions, right? And before that, like 20 years ago, it was in the tens billions. How did we get this far so fast? And it's not a good thing when I say that we got this far. Anyways, let's listen to Rand Paul, see what he has to say, because he is one of the few Republicans, if not the only, that basically didn't vote for the stopgap bill, which is why the government ended up shutting down. And for those of you who don't know, the reason it shut down is because there was a filibuster, and the filibuster rule, basically you have to get 60 out of 100 votes to end that debate. So essentially we're still in filibuster mode is really what the case is, and will be until somebody, you know, decides to give and stop being stubborn. So let's jump right in and watch this video. And of course, I will comment while watching.
See. And on Capitol Hill, Senator Rand Paul spoke on the Senate floor about a possible government shutdown. Government funding expires Tuesday night at midnight.
This spring, just a few days before Congress enacted the last continuing resolution, which is a spending plan, this resolution that would extend the Biden-era spending levels, President Trump said in a speech that he wanted to do something that hadn't been done in over 20 years, balance the budget. I fully commend him for that and am very supportive of trying to get there. The difficulty is that the spending levels we voted on in March and the spending levels we will vote on again this week don't balance the budget and don't come anywhere close. These are the spending levels that Biden put in place in December before he left office. Most Republicans were critical and condemnatory. Many conservative Republicans like myself voted against these spending levels because they were such that they would lead to a $2 trillion deficit. Well, that is still true. This year the deficit will be right around $2 trillion, and it's because we've continued the Biden spending levels.
There it is, right? So he hit the nail on the head. Conservative Republicans were against it, right, when Biden was in office, as they should be. But now it's time to put that concern to vote, which I haven't seen in my entire lifetime. And I've been paying attention to politics since I was like 18 or 19. So that's 22 years or so. I haven't seen it. I've always seen this concern. And then once, like I said, the political football switches hands, doesn't matter. All that concern goes out the window. And that's why we're trillions and trillions in debt.
To balance the budget, Congress needs a much stronger response than the legislation being presented. Critics of excessive federal spending have rightly argued that Congress should return to pre-pandemic levels of spending. When the pandemic came in, spending went through the roof. The economy was shut down. They wrote free checks to all the Americans. Problem is all that was borrowed. There was no money. There was no rainy day fund. Now, there is a way to tackle the budget and to try to balance the budget over time. I have a penny plan budget that I've been introducing for several years. We have not gotten any Democrat support, but we've gotten over half of the Republicans to support it. My penny plan would balance over about a I
want to stop there real quick because I want you to realize what he said. Have not gotten any Democrat support. Any Democrat support, but half of Republicans. Half of Republicans is better than no Republicans. Should be all Republicans. You would think the entire government would want to support this, something to start to get us back to pre-pandemic levels, which even then was high, right? Even if you account for inflation. But now it's just insane. And when does it stop? When do we stop spending to the point where we're borrowing, and essentially American currency is rooted in nothing but debt?
Year period and would return spending almost immediately to what would be a pre-pandemic level. 6 months ago, though, when the current continuing resolution was passed, Republicans were told that we were just clearing the decks. This was going to be temporary, and that we would be then bold and present budgets that would be cutting spending. Once President Trump was in office, with a Republican majority in the Senate and the House, we would finally address spending levels. And would you know it? Getting serious about a balanced budget is not on the agenda this week. There really isn't any serious change. What we're talking about is...
Let me put a disclaimer because I wouldn't want my fellow Republicans thinking I'm somehow liberal now. But look, I voted for Trump. I support a lot of what Trump's doing. This I will never be on board with, though. I will never be on board with this just outrageous spending. And it doesn't matter who the president was. I wasn't on board with it with any president, not during Trump's first term either. You know, it's ludicrous. It's unsustainable.
It's a continuing resolution that continues the Biden spending levels. These spending levels this year have led to almost $2 trillion in deficit and are projected next year to lead to $2.1 trillion in deficit. In addition, we will also be voting on something called an automatic continuing resolution proposal. This is the idea that rather than government shut down, it would just continue spending the same amount of money. In theory, I like the concept. I just don't really like continuing Biden-era spending levels because they never balance, not over 5 years, not over 10 years, really never. The lines never cross. So sure, you would keep government open, but you would keep government open and spending the same amount we do currently, which is out of control and not defensible. So keeping the government open while continuing $2 trillion deficits hardly seems desirable. Rather than the relentless fury to tackle the debt, which is what we were promised with a Republican majority, the powers that be have once again waved the white flag of surrender by failing to present the American people with legislation that would make the cuts necessary to balance the budget. Under the proposed continuing resolution or the automatic continuing resolution we will vote on tonight, the budget never balances. Even if you take it out, as far as the eye can see, revenue will never meet expenditures. So it's just not something I can support, and I don't think it's a conservative proposal. Spending has gotten so out of control that this freeze, even over a decade, doesn't put a dent in the deficit. Presidents of both parties pay lip service to the idea that the national debt must be addressed, and yet it gets worse under both parties. People ask me, whose fault is it? Republicans or Democrats? And I just say yes. It's both parties.
Just say, right?
The right wants unlimited spending for the military. The left wants unlimited spending for welfare.
Again, I fully support, much of Trump's agenda. I think, having Doge come in and do its thing in the beginning of his, this term was fantastic. I loved it. But now what's happening? It was all for naught.
And so you have guns and butter. And you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and it all goes up. Now, the reverse compromise could happen. You could actually cut a little bit from the military side and a little bit from the welfare side, and really everybody would get a little bit of a haircut across the board, and you could balance your budget that way. But you can't exclude or exempt huge swaths of government spending. You have to look at all spending. And if you do, the budget can be balanced by a 6% cut across the board, excluding Social Security. I am proud of the president for what he's tried to.
Note what he said there, excluding Social Security, right? So Social Security wouldn't be touched. Mind you, it's pretty much non-existent anyways. We're just borrowing against that, or against, our debt to pay for that anyways. But if you could have a 6% savings, right, year on year, you start chip away at that, not have a deficit, you start to chip away at that debt. I don't know what 6% is going to do against however many trillion we're at. What are we, like 30 trillion? I don't know. I might be wrong on that. I can't remember. But, it's a start.
To do, though. Unlike past presidents, Donald Trump has created the Department of Government Efficiency to identify and eliminate waste. DOGE has found billions of dollars of waste. Americans were rightfully appalled when they were told that your government's been spending $2 million on sex changes in Guatemala. I mean, it sounds like a bad punchline you might hear on late night comics. $2 million on sex changes in Guatemala. Your government was spending that money.
And that's not even the most
DOGE people came in and said we shouldn't do it. Now, I've been talking about these things for years, but finally we had an administration that was interested in it. $25,000 for an LGBT opera in Colombia, and nearly $1 million to study the microaggressions among obese Latinx, whatever that means. But just...
I'm sorry. Microaggressions against obese Latinx. First of all, what the hell does Latinx even mean? Can somebody tell me? Because I only started hearing that term when I started teaching at a community college. I had no idea what they're talking about. I'm guessing it just means like Hispanic, right? That was the term we used to use, Hispanic. But now it's Latinx, and now, we're fighting against microaggressions and fat shaming of Latinx, which is just completely asinine. Why are our government dollars why were they ever going towards something like that? Somebody, please, if you have a proper justification, drop it in the comments. I would love to hear it.
Crazy wasted money. I mean, it'd be one thing if it was even a surplus. These are crazy wastes of money. But we're doing this. We have to borrow the money from China to send it on all these crazy projects around the world. This doesn't even account the $200 billion we've sent to Ukraine. That's all borrowed as well. Mm-hmm. This summer, President Trump sent Congress a special message identifying $9.4 billion in rescissions. And Congress, for the first time in a long time, did the right thing. We voted for and passed this rescission package to cut $9 billion. I supported, as I always do, cutting this foreign aid. With a deficit of $2 trillion a year, though, $9 billion is a drop in the bucket. We've got to do more. Congress has to do more. And as much as I appreciate this, the power of the purse needs to be exerted more by Congress. We've let so many of these decision-making powers devolve to the president. The founders, I think, would be appalled with Congress. They'd be appalled with what Congress has become.
Hey guys, so this was a bit of a longer video, so I'm going to chop it into 3 parts. This will have been the first one. Catch the second one next week, and probably the third one next week as well, just so it's a little more digestible for you. Anyways, that'll do it for this one, guys. Be sure to drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you're not afraid of authentic conversation, then smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share this with somebody who needs to hear it. I'm Ronnie. This is Grown as Men. And until next time, stay grounded and stay vocal.